All right, they're supposed to prevent everything from chicken pox to the flu, but some parents out there, they're actually keeping their kids from getting those important vaccinations, saying they are not safe, they can kill, they can cause brain damage. Coming up, we're going to tell you how religion is playing a part in their decision.
Well, parents are concerned over whether or not vaccinations are actually safe for their kids, and some are actually turning to God, sort of. According to a report, more parents are lying to get their kids out of vaccinations required by their kids' schools by citing phony religious convictions. So is it the only choice they have, or are they putting their children and other children at risk? Well, joining us now is Barbara Lowe Fisher, a parent who refused a vaccine for her child and is also co-founder and president of the National Vaccine Information Center, and pediatrician Dr. Alana Levine here in studio with us. Barbara, I want to go to you first because a lot of people out there would think, why would a parent ever turn down and refuse a vaccination for their child? And you have a good reason. It all started with your firstborn, Chris. Tell us your story.
Yes, first I'd like to say I think that doctors and health officials ought to be spending more time explaining why so many of our highly vaccinated children are so sick and disabled, rather than grilling parents about the sincerity of their religious convictions. I'm a mother of 3 children, and when I became a mother in 1978, I did what my doctor told me to do. I vaccinated my baby. And when he was 2.5, I watched my bright son regress after he was given a 4th DPT shot and suffered in brain inflammation and was left with multiple learning disabilities and attention deficit. I had a second son in 1983. I did what my doctor told me to do. And at 4 years old, I watched him develop a pseudotumor of the brain after a 4th round of vaccinations. By then, I knew my children were genetically at risk for vaccine reactions. And when I had a daughter in 1987, that is when I got down on my knees. And I prayed to my God for guidance.
All right.
And I talked to my pastor. And I filed a religious exemption to vaccination. And today she is a bright, healthy college student. And I'm glad that I prayed for guidance and obeyed that guidance. And I don't think any doctor has a right to take that freedom from
Barbara,
me or any other
parent. Hang on for just a second, because we do have a doctor with us. Dr. Levine, respond to that.
Well, I think her circumstance is quite unfortunate, and I'm very sorry for what has happened to her family. Medicine to this point has not proven that there is a risk from vaccines.
I mean, is there a causal connection between vaccines and brain damage?
Not that has been proven right now.
That is absolutely incorrect. The Institute of Medicine in 1991 and 1994 confirmed that vaccines can cause death and brain inflammation.
Doctor, if children don't get vaccinated, do they put the whole population at risk? Could an epidemic ensue? And I think I remember one in Philadelphia in '91 when that very thing happened.
Absolutely. It's important as parents to vaccinate your own children to make sure that they're protected, and it's a public health issue. You need to protect all of the children in the community. If you don't do that and your child contracts a disease, it can spread it to hundreds of people that they come into contact with.
Let's talk about families who are now using religion because they feel that they have no other way out. And Barbara feels that this is her only way to prevent her child from being vaccinated because of what she feels is responsible for what happened to her other kids. I mean, is it hard to use religion in this sort of scenario and convince, let's say, a public school that our religious beliefs are the reasons why we don't want our child vaccinated before we send them off to the first day of school?
Absolutely. I mean, religion is not arguable. So if somebody claims a religious objection, it's very hard to contradict that. However, what I think is most important is that doctors and pediatricians really educate the parents of their patients and really make them understand that all of the studies show that there's no causal link between many of the diseases that people are claiming children receive.
Barbara, what's the reaction at the school when you tell them that you don't want your children vaccinated and the great lengths that you had to go through and get your church involved?
At the National Vaccine Information Center, we receive many, many calls every day from parents who are having their religious exemptions pulled by public health authorities. You know, for the theory of herd immunity is that 80 to 90% of the population should be vaccinated in order for protection to be enforced. That leaves at least 10% for exemptions. 99% of our children are fully vaccinated by kindergarten. Less than 1% of parents take exemptions for any reason. Why are we so worried about 1% taking exemptions, that these vaccines work?
I'll tell you why we're so worried. Because if you put that one person in the community, they can spread that to many, many more people. There was
then
a
these
New England Journal
vaccines are not as effective as the drug companies and doctors have told us they are. If you get vaccinated, you should have a very high percentage guarantee that you are protected.
Dr. Levine,
either the vaccines work or they don't work.
The New England Journal, I just want you to get that statement out, and then we have to go. We have to wrap
There was
up.
a New England Journal of Medicine study that looked at an epidemic of measles in a community in Indiana where a 17-year-old inadvertently and unbeknownst to her contracted measles when she was traveling abroad. She came back to her community during the incubation period, so she didn't know that she had it, and then she spread it to 34 people in the community, some of which were vaccinated and the vaccine had worn off or not worked properly, but other people who hadn't been vaccinated.
So in your view, the risk of the actual disease is much worse than the risk of the vaccine?
Absolutely.
Okay. Dr. Ilana Levine and Barbara Lowe Fisher, thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.